Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My dear brothers and sisters, peace and blessings be upon you all. Today I want to share with you a beautiful secret. A secret that, if embraced sincerely, can bring peace to our hearts and calm to our souls. It is the secret of how to never get angry or bothered by anyone. Anger is a fire that burns the heart, clouds the mind, and damages relationships. We have all felt it, that sudden rush of frustration when someone says something harsh, acts unfairly, or causes us harm. But what if I tell you that it is possible to live a life where anger loses its grip on you, where you remain calm, composed, and content no matter what others do? First and foremost, we must understand that anger is a choice. It is not something that just happens to us. We have the power to control it. When you feel anger rising, pause for a moment, breathe deeply, and remind yourself that anger only hurts you. It does not affect the other person as much as it affects your own heart. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that the strongest among us is not the one who can overpower others with his hands, but the one who controls himself when he is angry. This is true strength. Next, try to look at situations from a different perspective. Often people's words or actions come from their own struggles, pain, or ignorance. When someone hurts you, remind yourself that they are fighting their own battles. This does not excuse bad behavior, but it helps soften your heart and prevents bitterness. Forgiveness is another key to never being bothered. Forgiveness is not about letting the wrongdoer go free without consequence. It is about freeing yourself from the heavy burden of resentment. When you forgive, you are choosing peace over pain. Moreover, fill your heart with gratitude. When you focus on the blessings in your life, the negativity around you loses its power. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is wrong to what is right. It strengthens your inner peace. And finally, strengthen your connection with the divine. Turn to prayer, seek patience, and ask for guidance. When your heart is connected to Allah, you find a tranquility that the world cannot shake. My dear friends, the road to never getting angry or bothered is a journey. It requires effort, self-awareness, and constant practice. But the rewards are immense. A heart full of peace, relationships filled with kindness, and a life free from the chains of anger. May we all strive to be among those who control their anger, forgive easily, and live with hearts full of love and Ameen. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions that human beings experience. It is a feeling that often rises quickly, like a sudden storm within the heart, and can overwhelm us before we have a chance to fully understand what is happening. It is natural to feel anger after all. It is a part of our emotional spectrum. But the problem arises when anger controls us, when it pushes us to say or do things that we later regret, or when it builds inside and turns into bitterness that poisons our happiness. Anger, if not managed wisely, can damage relationships, cause stress, and leave a lasting impact on our physical and mental well-being. One of the most important things to realize about anger is that it is not something that just happens to us. It is a reaction, a choice. The initial feeling might arise without our control, but what we do with that feeling is entirely within our power. Many people mistakenly believe that anger must be expressed loudly and aggressively, that it is necessary to let it out in order to feel better. However, true strength lies in learning to respond to anger in a calm and measured way. When we choose to respond with patience rather than rage, we protect our hearts from harm and keep our minds clear. There is a beautiful teaching that the strongest among us is the one who controls himself when he is angry. This is not just a nice idea but a profound truth. Anger clouds judgment and blinds us to wisdom, while self-control opens the door to understanding and peace. When anger arises, it is essential to pause, even if just for a moment, and take a deep breath. This small act of breathing can create the space needed to prevent an immediate reaction that might be harmful. It gives the mind a chance to think, is this anger going to benefit me? Will it improve the situation or make it worse? Often when anger flares up, it is because we feel hurt or disrespected. Our ego feels bruised, and in that moment we forget the larger picture. We forget that everyone makes mistakes, everyone has flaws, and everyone is fighting battles we cannot see. Remembering this can help dissolve the sharp edges of anger. It is as if by seeing the human frailty in others, we find compassion instead of resentment. Anger can also be a symptom of unmet expectations. When things do not go the way we want or people behave differently from how we hope, frustration builds. We feel a sense of loss or disappointment, and this fuels anger. One way to reduce this anger is to manage expectations, understanding that life is unpredictable, and people will not always behave perfectly. When we accept this reality, our hearts become softer, and our reactions become gentler. There is also a significant physical toll that anger takes on the body. Studies have shown that frequent anger can lead to increased blood pressure, heart problems, and a weakened immune system. The stress from anger triggers a release of hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare the body for fight or flight. While this reaction is helpful in genuine danger, living in a constant state of anger can exhaust the body and mind. Recognizing this helps motivate us to seek healthier ways to cope. Anger can sometimes be useful if it drives us to stand up against injustice or to protect ourselves and others from harm. But this anger must be righteous and controlled, not destructive or vengeful. The difference lies in the intention behind the anger. When anger comes from a place of love, justice, and protection, it can inspire positive change. But when it comes from ego, pride, or desire for revenge, it destroys. To overcome the grip of anger, many find it helpful to develop habits of mindfulness and reflection. Being aware of the triggers that lead to anger allows us to prepare and respond better. Journaling feelings, talking to a trusted friend, or seeking guidance from wise mentors can provide clarity. Prayer and spiritual practices also offer profound support in calming the heart. The journey to mastering anger is not easy, and it requires patience. Sometimes we will fail and lose our temper, but each time we recognize our anger and make an effort to change, we are growing stronger. Over time, the heart becomes more peaceful, the mind more balanced, and the spirit more resilient. The fire of anger loses its power, and instead kindness and understanding take its place. Control is a concept that touches every part of our lives, yet it is often misunderstood. When we think about control, many of us immediately picture having power over external events, other people, or the circumstances around us. We want to control situations so that things go our way, and when they don't, frustration and disappointment easily follow. But the truth is that the only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, our thoughts, our emotions, and our reactions. This realization is a powerful key to finding peace and contentment in life. It is natural to desire control, because it makes us feel safe and secure. When life is uncertain, we cling tightly to anything we can manage. However, the more we try to control the outside world, the more we realize that it is unpredictable, and this can lead to anxiety and stress. No matter how much we plan or try to influence others, many things remain beyond our reach. Accepting this fact is not giving up. Rather, it is freeing ourselves from the burden of unrealistic expectation. Self-control is the foundation of emotional resilience. It is the ability to manage our impulses and not be ruled by sudden emotions like anger, fear, or jealousy. When we develop control over our inner world, we gain the ability to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. This means when faced with a difficult situation or someone who provokes us, we can choose our response carefully rather than acting out of momentary anger or hurt. The struggle to control our emotions is one of the greatest challenges of being human. The feelings that rise inside us are often intense and can feel overwhelming. But control doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it means acknowledging those emotions, understanding their source, and then deciding how to deal with them constructively. When we do this, we transform our emotional energy into something positive rather than destructive. Control also requires awareness. Without being conscious of what we are feeling and thinking, we cannot direct our behavior effectively. Mindfulness, the practice of being fully present and aware of the moment, helps us develop this awareness. It allows us to notice the early signs of rising anger or frustration and intervene before those feelings take over. The moment we catch ourselves becoming agitated, we can pause, breathe, and remind ourselves that we have the power to choose how to act. An important aspect of control is patience. Often we lose control because we want things to happen immediately or in the exact way we expect. When life challenges us with delays, misunderstandings, or unfairness, impatience stirs frustration and sometimes anger. Patience is the art of waiting with calmness and trust that things will unfold as they should. It is a form of control over time itself, resisting the urge to rush or force outcomes. In addition to controlling our emotions, control over our thoughts is essential. The mind can be our greatest ally or our worst enemy. Negative thoughts can fuel anger and distress, while positive and balanced thoughts can bring peace and clarity. Training the mind to focus on what is beneficial, to avoid dwelling on hurtful or unfair situations repeatedly, is an exercise in control. This discipline strengthens mental resilience and helps us remain unbothered by external negativity. Another dimension of control is how we manage our actions. Our actions define who we are and how others perceive us. Sometimes the temptation to lash out or respond harshly is strong, but exercising control means choosing kindness, patience, or silence instead. This doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom and strength. The person who controls their actions even in difficult moments, builds a character that commands respect and earns peace. Control also involves setting boundaries, knowing when to say no, protecting your time and energy, and not allowing others to overstep. Boundaries are a form of self-respect and control that guard your well-being. Without them, you may find yourself constantly reacting to others' demands, losing your peace in the process. Spiritual teachings often emphasize that true control comes from relying on a higher power, recognizing that we cannot control everything but can seek help, guidance, and strength. Through prayer or meditation brings humility and tranquility. It reminds us that while we do our part to manage our thoughts, emotions, and actions, the outcomes are ultimately in the hands of something greater. Building control is a lifelong process. It requires patience with ourselves, constant self-reflection, and the willingness to learn from mistakes. Each time we choose to act with control rather than give in to chaos, we grow stronger and more peaceful inside. This inner control becomes a shield that protects us from being easily angered or bothered by others, allowing us to navigate life's challenges with grace and calm. Forgiveness is one of the most profound gifts we can give to ourselves and to others. It is a healing balm that soothes the wounds of the heart and frees us from the heavy burden of resentment and anger. Yet forgiveness is not always easy to practice. When someone hurts us deeply, our natural instinct may be to hold on to pain, to seek justice or revenge, or to close our hearts. But true forgiveness invites us to release these feelings, not for the sake of the person who wronged us alone, but primarily for our own peace and well-being. At its core, forgiveness is an act of courage and strength. It does not mean forgetting what happened or excusing harmful behavior. Rather, it means choosing to let go of the grip that the hurt has on us. When we refuse to forgive, the pain remains alive inside us, growing bitter and heavy like a stone in our chest. This bitterness clouds our vision and often causes us to carry anger and sorrow into other parts of our lives, affecting relationships and our own happiness. Many people misunderstand forgiveness as weakness, but in reality it takes great bravery to forgive. It means overcoming pride, hurt, and sometimes years of pain. It requires us to look beyond our own suffering and see the humanity in those who wronged us, recognizing that they too are flawed and struggling in their own ways. This perspective doesn't diminish our pain, but helps us understand that holding on to anger often harms ourselves more than anyone else. Forgiveness is also a powerful form of liberation. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the prison of past hurts. We choose not to be controlled by the actions of others. This is an important step in reclaiming our peace and joy. Anger and resentment act like chains that bind the heart, but forgiveness breaks those chains and opens the door to healing. One of the greatest challenges with forgiveness is the misconception that it has to happen immediately or all at once. Forgiveness is often a process, not a single moment. Sometimes we may need time to heal before we can truly forgive. It is okay to feel pain and sadness, to seek support and to reflect deeply. What matters is the intention to move toward forgiveness, even if it takes time. Each small step away from resentment and toward understanding is a victory. Forgiveness also nurtures compassion. When we forgive, we soften our hearts. We develop empathy for the imperfections of others and for our own mistakes. This compassion creates space for kindness and reconciliation, which can restore broken relationships or bring peace to situations where conflict once thrived. It's important to remember that forgiveness is not just a gift we offer others but also a gift we give ourselves. Carrying anger and grudges is exhausting and emotionally draining. It affects our health, our sleep, and our ability to enjoy life. Forgiveness lightens this load and restores energy and balance to the soul. In many spiritual traditions, forgiveness is seen as a virtue and a way to draw closer to the divine. It is often linked with mercy and grace, reminding us that just as we seek forgiveness for our own shortcomings, we should extend the same mercy to others. This connection between forgiving others and receiving forgiveness is a powerful motivator to let go of anger and resentment. Practicing forgiveness can be supported by various strategies. Reflecting on the benefits of forgiveness, praying or meditating for strength, writing down feelings, or speaking with trusted friends or counselors can help release the pain. Sometimes, simply expressing forgiveness in our hearts, even if we don't communicate it directly to the person who hurt us, can begin the healing process. Forgiveness is a path to peace that requires patience and persistence. It is not always easy to forgive, especially when the hurt is deep, but the more we practice it, the more we experience the freedom it brings. Forgiveness transforms anger into understanding, resentment into compassion, and pain into healing. It is a key to living a life unburdened by bitterness, enabling us to move forward with a heart that is lighter, calmer, and more at peace. Patience is a quality that often feels difficult to cultivate, especially in a world that moves so fast and demands immediate results. It is the ability to endure delays,
difficulties and discomfort without becoming frustrated or angry. Patience is much more than simply waiting. It is waiting with a calm heart, a steady mind and a spirit that trusts in the process of life. It is a powerful virtue that protects us from being overwhelmed by the challenges and annoyances that are part of our daily existence. One of the main reasons patience is so important is because life is full of things beyond our control. People will disappoint us, situations will not unfold as we hope, and setbacks are inevitable. When impatience takes hold, it often leads to anger, irritation and hasty decisions. These reactions, while natural, tend to create more problems rather than solving them. Patience allows us to pause, reflect, and respond with wisdom rather than emotion. At its heart, patience is linked to trust. Trust that things will improve, trust that difficulties are temporary, and trust that there is a bigger plan beyond what we can see at the moment. This trust gives us the strength to endure hardships without losing hope or becoming bitter. It is a quiet confidence that even though the present moment may be challenging, it is not permanent. Many people confuse patience with passivity, thinking that being patient means doing nothing or accepting injustice without complaint. But true patience is active. It is a dynamic strength. It means enduring hardship while continuing to take appropriate steps toward improvement. For example, when facing a personal struggle, patience does not mean ignoring the problem, but rather facing it calmly and persistently, knowing that change takes time. Patience also plays a critical role in our interactions with others. Human relationships are complex and imperfect. People make mistakes, say things they don't mean, and sometimes behave in ways that hurt us. Without patience, these moments can cause anger and conflict. With patience, however, we give others the space to grow and change. We choose to forgive minor faults and avoid escalating tension. This not only preserves relationships, but also creates an environment where kindness and understanding can flourish. Developing patience requires self-awareness and practice. Often impatience arises from unrealistic expectations, wanting things to happen faster, or to happen exactly according to our desires. By adjusting our expectations and accepting that life has its own pace, we can reduce frustration. It also helps to remind ourselves that growth, healing, and success often take time. Just as a tree does not bear fruit overnight, our own personal development and the resolution of difficulties require patience. Patience is closely connected to the concept of self-control. When we are patient, we control the impulse to react hastily. This control over immediate emotions allows us to make better decisions and maintain inner peace. The moments when we feel most tested are often the moments when practicing patience can transform a potential crisis into an opportunity for growth. Many spiritual teachings emphasize patience as a key virtue. It is often linked with endurance and perseverance, reminding us that life's trials are tests of character. Patience teaches humility by showing us that we are not always in charge, and that some things are beyond our control. It invites us to surrender our anxieties and place our trust in something greater. One practical way to cultivate patience is through mindfulness and breathing exercises. When we feel impatience rising, taking a few deep breaths and focusing on the present moment can calm the mind. This pause creates a space where we can choose to respond with calm, rather than react impulsively. Over time, these small moments of patience build resilience and peace. Another helpful practice is gratitude. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack or what is delayed, we soften our hearts and develop contentment. Gratitude shifts our attention away from frustration and helps us appreciate the journey, not just the destination. In the end, patience is a gift we give ourselves, a shield against the storms of anger and frustration. It teaches us endurance and strengthens our ability to remain calm when faced with life's challenges. It nurtures peace in our hearts and fosters harmony in our relationships. Through patience, we learn that waiting with grace is not a weakness but a profound strength that shapes our character and enriches our lives.
Gratitude is a powerful and transformative attitude that has the ability to shift our entire outlook on life. It is the practice of recognizing and appreciating the blessings, big and small, that surround us every day. When we cultivate gratitude in our hearts, we begin to see the world through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity. This simple yet profound change can reduce feelings of anger, frustration, and dissatisfaction, helping us to live more peacefully and joyfully. At its core, gratitude is about awareness. It asks us to pause and notice what we often take for granted: the gift of life itself, the breath we take, the people who love and support us, the opportunities we have, and even the challenges that help us grow. When we focus on these blessings, it becomes harder to be bothered by minor annoyances or the negative actions of others. Gratitude redirects our attention from what is missing or wrong to what is present and good. One of the remarkable effects of gratitude is that it softens the heart. When we regularly practice gratitude, our hearts become more open and less prone to anger. This is because gratitude encourages humility and contentment. It reminds us that despite our difficulties, we have so much to be thankful for. This shift in perspective makes it easier to forgive and to let go of grudges, since we recognize that everyone, including ourselves, has imperfections and struggles. Gratitude also has a direct impact on our mental and emotional health. Research shows that people who cultivate gratitude tend to experience lower levels of stress and depression. They sleep better, have stronger immune systems, and feel more satisfied with life. This is because gratitude promotes positive thinking patterns and reduces the brain's tendency. This humility helps us be more forgiving and less likely to be angered by the imperfections of others. When we understand that we too receive unearned blessings, it becomes easier to extend kindness and patience. Practicing gratitude also deepens our spiritual awareness. Many spiritual traditions teach that gratitude is a form of worship and a path to closeness with the divine. Recognizing the countless gifts we have been given inspires a heart full of thankfulness and submission. This spiritual gratitude strengthens our resilience and nurtures inner peace. In summary, gratitude is not just a feeling but a practice, one that can be cultivated daily. It changes how we perceive life and how we respond to others. It frees us from the grip of anger and dissatisfaction by filling our hearts with appreciation and contentment. When gratitude becomes a habit, it transforms our experiences and helps us live with a joyful, peaceful heart that is less bothered by the trials and irritations of life. Perspective is the way we see and interpret the world around us, and it has a tremendous influence on how we feel and react to situations. It shapes our understanding of events, guides our emotions, and ultimately determines whether we become angry and bothered or remain calm and composed. When we learn to shift our perspective, we gain the power to change our experience of life no matter what challenges come our way. One of the key truths about perspective is that it is not fixed or absolute. The same event can be seen in many different ways depending on the angle from which we view it. For example, what feels like a personal attack or insult in one moment might be recognized as ignorance or pain in another. By choosing to look beyond the surface and consider the broader context, we often find reasons to be more understanding and less reactive. A helpful way to gain perspective is to remind ourselves that everyone we encounter is carrying their own struggles and pain. When someone behaves in a way that hurts or frustrates us, it is rarely because they want to harm us personally. Often they are reacting out of their own fears, insecurities, or challenges. This understanding helps us soften our hearts and respond with compassion rather than anger. Perspective also teaches us humility. When we realize how limited our own viewpoint can be, we become more open to other possibilities. We acknowledge that we do not have all the answers and that our assumptions about people or situations might be incomplete or mistaken. This humility creates space for patience and tolerance, reducing the likelihood that we will be easily offended or bothered. Time is another crucial factor in gaining perspective. Often events that feel overwhelming or unjust in the moment seem less significant when viewed after some time has passed. The pain dulls, the confusion clears, and we can see the situation with greater clarity. Remembering this can help us endure difficult moments with patience, knowing that our feelings and reactions may soften with time. Perspective also invites us to focus on what truly matters in life. Sometimes we get caught up in small irritations or setbacks that feel huge in the moment but are actually minor in the grand scheme of things. By zooming out and reflecting on our bigger goals, values, and blessings, we can keep these smaller troubles in proper proportion. This broader outlook reduces the tendency to blow things out of proportion and become unnecessarily angry. Another important aspect of perspective is empathy. The ability to put ourselves in another person's shoes. Empathy expands our understanding and helps us see the reasons behind people's behavior. When we practice empathy, we are less likely to take things personally or respond with hostility. Instead, we respond with kindness and patience, knowing that everyone is doing their best with the tools and experiences they have. Perspective also plays a vital role in our inner dialogue, the stories we tell ourselves about what is happening. Sometimes our minds exaggerate or twist situations, interpreting actions as personal attacks or deliberate insults. Recognizing this tendency helps us challenge negative thoughts and replace them with more balanced and compassionate interpretations. Changing the story we tell ourselves is a powerful way to reduce anger and annoyance. It's helpful to remember that the world is vast and our individual problems are often just a small part of a much larger picture.
This realization can humble us and bring peace. When we see that many people face even greater difficulties, it can inspire gratitude and patience. It also reminds us that life is full of ups and downs and that neither good nor bad moments last forever. Sometimes gaining perspective requires us to step away from the situation physically or mentally. Taking a break, going for a walk, or simply breathing deeply can help clear our minds. Distance gives us the clarity to see things as they really are rather than through the lens of immediate emotion. This fresh viewpoint often brings insight and calmness. Lastly, perspective is strengthened by reflection and learning. When we look back on past experiences, especially those where we lost our temper or were deeply bothered, we can analyze what triggered those feelings and how we might respond differently in the future. This reflection builds wisdom and emotional maturity, helping us to remain steady even when tested. Perspective is a gift that empowers us to rise above anger and irritation. By choosing how we see the world and the people in it, we create space for peace, understanding, and patience. It allows us to respond to life's challenges with grace, knowing that our viewpoint shapes our reality far more than the external events themselves. Acceptance is one of the most powerful tools we have to maintain peace within ourselves. It is the ability to embrace life as it is rather than how we wish it to be. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or resigning ourselves to unfairness or hardship. Rather, it means recognizing we are human and that growth comes through learning from errors, not through self-condemnation. When we accept ourselves, we reduce the inner conflict that often leads to frustration and anger. Similarly, acceptance of others means acknowledging their humanity, their right to be different, and their right to make mistakes. We all have our own journeys shaped by unique experiences and challenges. Expecting others to conform perfectly to our standards sets us up for disappointment and irritation. Acceptance softens our expectations and opens the door to compassion and patience. Acceptance also helps us let go of the need to control outcomes or other people's behavior. Often anger arises when we try to force things to go our way. This desire for control is a natural instinct, but it clashes with the reality that much of life is unpredictable. Accepting this truth means releasing the burden of control and trusting that we can handle whatever life brings. When we practice acceptance, we are better equipped to respond constructively to challenges. Instead of wasting time and energy fighting reality, we can focus on what is within our power to change: our attitudes, our choices, and our actions. This shift from resistance to acceptance is empowering, giving us a sense of agency even in difficult situations. A crucial part of acceptance is forgiveness. Forgiving others and ourselves is a form of acceptance that frees us from the cycle of anger and resentment. It means acknowledging that harm was done but choosing to release the hold it has on our hearts. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves as much as anyone else. Acceptance also nurtures resilience. Life will always have ups and downs, but acceptance helps us bounce back more quickly from setbacks. It encourages flexibility of mind and heart, allowing us to adapt to change rather than being broken by it. This resilience builds inner strength and peace. Developing acceptance takes practice. It can be challenging to accept situations that feel unjust or painful. However, mindfulness and meditation can support this process by helping us observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. This awareness creates a space where acceptance can grow. Acceptance is closely tied to gratitude and perspective. When we accept life as it is, we open ourselves to see the blessings hidden within difficulties. Sometimes what initially seems like a setback is an opportunity for growth, learning, or a new direction. This openness to life's flow reduces the power of anger and frustration. It is also helpful to remind ourselves that acceptance doesn't mean liking everything or giving up on improvement. We can still strive for better circumstances and healthy change while accepting the present moment. This balance between acceptance and effort creates harmony within us. By embracing acceptance, we cultivate peace that is not dependent on external conditions. This peace acts as a shield against the disturbances caused by others' words or actions. When we accept life's realities without unnecessary resistance, we are less likely to be angered or bothered. Instead, we develop a steady heart that remains calm through life's storms. Self-control is a fundamental quality that plays a vital role in managing our emotions, particularly anger and frustration. It is the ability to regulate our impulses, thoughts, and feelings so that we can respond to situations in a calm and measured way rather than reacting impulsively. Developing self-control empowers us to maintain peace within ourselves even when others provoke us or when circumstances become challenging. One of the main reasons self-control is so important is that emotions like anger often arise suddenly and intensely. Without self-control, these emotions can overwhelm us, leading to reactions we later regret. Acting out of anger may damage relationships, harm our reputation, and create further conflict. But when we exercise self-control, we create a pause between stimulus and response. This pause allows us to choose our actions consciously rather than being driven by raw emotion. Self-control is not about suppressing feelings or pretending that anger does not exist. Rather, it means acknowledging our emotions while deciding not to act destructively on them. It involves recognizing that although anger is natural, how we express or contain it is within our control. This awareness helps us manage our reactions in ways that protect our dignity and maintain harmony with others. Practicing self-control requires patience and effort. It is a skill that can be strengthened over time through mindfulness, reflection, and discipline. For example, when we feel anger rising, taking a few deep breaths or counting silently to 10 can help calm the mind and body. These simple techniques interrupt the automatic reaction and give us time to respond thoughtfully. Another key aspect of self-control is understanding the triggers that provoke anger. Often anger arises from unmet expectations, misunderstandings, or feeling disrespected. By identifying these triggers, we can prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally to respond calmly when faced with similar situations in the future. This preparation reduces the chances of being caught off guard by our emotions. Self-control also plays a critical role in communication. When we are upset, it is easy to say hurtful things or raise our voices. Exercising self-control allows us to speak calmly